MAB Weekly, as we shift gears to the Region Sportsdesk part of the program, we will be, of course, talking football. We are videotaping it. Of course, I put a post on the Region Sportsdesk page. You can't wait. You can interact with us right now, live on the audio stream. But obviously, if you're watching the video, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm Bob Batowski, joined by Mr. Region Sportsdesk himself, JT Hoyle. And I guess before we talk about this week's action for one class for 16 teams. It's sectional final weekend coming up. The rest of the state is still in semifinal mode, but we had a chance last week to look at the number one ranked team in Class 6A by the media and by the coaches, and that was the Penn Kingsmen. And they put together a very, very workmanlike effort. I'll tell you what, Mr. Oakley is a heck of a playmaker, and Penn, they don't have a lot of great team speed. I mean, it's like a cheetah's game when you look at the game of football. They're a bunch of rhinos, but they are very, very fundamentally sound. They need to work on the penalties a little bit, but still, I thought Mr. Oakley played a heck of a game, and it was a solid team win for Penn last week, any point of the season.
Well, it's on.
Okay.
I think the main...
Let's try the other mic there, sir, by the way. Let's try that. How about... There you go.
All right.
Don't you love these technical glitches on the fly?
Oh, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key word to mention when you talk about Penn is toughness. I thought they showed great toughness on both sides of the football. Their defense was just outstanding against the run. Didn't give up a whole lot. Portage had a couple of chances. They were down by the 5-yard line, fourth end of the half, and
boy, how big would that touchdown have been going into the locker room?
Tried that trick play, that halfback pass to the other side to Pierman,
and he had it in his hands.
Yeah, just couldn't hang on to it. It would have been 14-7, but I think that play, going through his fingertips, that really killed any momentum that Portage had. But Penn was able to get it done. Having watched the game, honestly, I do think that whoever wins this Section 1 game can definitely play with Penn. I think they can hang with them, whether it be Lake Central or Merrillville. I think outside of Zach Oakley, there's really not a whole lot to this offense. Oakley's a great runner. They have a great offensive line. But, I don't see any outstanding playmakers outside of Oakley that I would be too concerned about.
All right, and of course, a little bit of shocks as well with some of the results of this past weekend. Some of the usual suspects kind of going by the wayside. Hobart going basically special teams and defense kind of dooming them in the fourth quarter against South Bend St. Joe. Lull, but having the clamps on at Westside playing probably their best defensive game of the year. And the East Chicago Central Cardinals saying, no more in Hessville, no more. So the Governors done before the sectional final round for the first time since 2007.
Yeah, I posed this question on my page. Who intrigues everybody now? With some of our, as you mentioned, the usual suspects. Hobart, Lowell, Morton, those teams out in the first round.
Crown Point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are getting behind Westside. Some people are getting behind East Chicago. I think.
And then you got some folks at Griffin that are on a New Prairie bandwagon.
Yeah, probably.
I'm talking to you, Garrett.
No doubt about it. And 62-0 over KV. I mean, that's.
I thought it was going to be a lot closer game.
It doesn't get much more impressive than that. I mean, that's a pretty big statement. If you're, New Prairie now, they're going to have their hands full this week when they take on Plymouth. We can talk about that a little bit. But,
oh yeah, and we will.
So yeah, there's a lot of a lot more intrigue now because there's some kind of new kids on the block that really haven't both Westside and East Chicago were both looking for a signature win, and they both got it last week.
And now one of them's going to most likely, with no offenses to the teams who are playing this week, but one of them's going to finally add a long drought win their first ever sectional in a couple of weeks. But before we talk about that matchup, let's talk about some of the other matchups here. We'll begin in Class 1A. Semifinal round in Classes 1 through 5 this week. We begin at the top half of the sectional 41 bracket. The 7-3 West Central Trojans and the 4-6 Culver Cavaliers. Culver ending the season of South Central, I believe, 1 week ago. Rematch of the season opener at Cavalier Field between these two schools, went West Central tripling up Culver in that opener, 18-6.
Yeah, it's a long period between week 1 and week 11. So I mean, a lot has changed since then.
It's
Culver's had a really, has had a struggling season. They beat South Central early in the season, I think by a couple of scores.
It was 32-21, and then last week 36-33.
Yeah, just a 3-point. I really thought South Central was going to surprise some people and make the sectional final, but now that they're out, and I look at this matchup, West Central has kind of took some lumps, towards the mid to late part of the season. I think they get back on track. They obviously took care of Triton pretty easily. I look for them to take care of Culver here by a couple of scores. Instead of 18-6, I'll say they make the PATs this time. I'll say it's 21-6. I'm going to go with West Central.
I think West Central is going to find a way to get the job done. Obviously, Culver is one of the, if they have the horses, that could be a very tough place to play. Had a chance to see that a few years ago in a game against Whiting over there at Cavalier Field. But I think West Central finds a way to get the job done on the road on Friday night. Which then leads us to the mega matchup up north in Class 1A. The champions of the Greater South Shore Conference, the Whiting Oilers, 9-1, the only blemish on the season against the River Forest Ingots. They'll be taking on the undefeated champions of the Midwest Conference, the Winamac Warriors. A lot of people have been looking towards this matchup for probably the last 2/3 of the season, JT. It seems like these teams were the two best teams going into the playoffs in Sectional 41. Whiting with to make that long trip down to the hinterlands of Winamac. And if there's one thing we've seen over the years with Whiting, playing against teams like West Central, playing teams like Culver, Lavelle, and I think again in this case with Winamac, they are going to struggle at the point of attack on both sides of the ball. I think it's been a great year for the Oilers, but it comes to an end on Friday night. And this, folks, I know you can't hear that, but you can see that. That's my signal for the power play. Poto's power play.
Chip the gold trophy there.
There you go. Anyhow, power play of the week for El Poto. Winamac will roll over Whiting. And when I mean roll, it's been a nice year for Ethan Young and company, but I see Winamac, they've been scoring points in bunches all year, JT. They're going to continue to score. I see this being a 48-20 type game.
Well, I can't disagree with you with much of what you said. It's kind of a battle. Whiting is still more of a finesse team. They've run the ball a little bit more this year than they have in years past.
Now, A.J. Velez did play last week, by the way.
Yeah, and I think they're starting to get a little bit tougher, but it's really hard to simulate what you're going to see from Winamac. They have one of the best offensive lines in 1A. They have one of the best running backs in Tyler Klatschke, and I think Whiting has an opportunity to put some points on the board because I don't think Winamac has really been tested very much through the air. If Whiting gets some short passes on the perimeter, they can get some chunks of yards, and they can put up some points. I wouldn't be shocked if they scored 21 or 28 points, but I don't see them slowing down the Warriors. I think stopping Winamac's offense is so difficult because there are just so many things they can do, so many looks that they give you, and their toughness on the offensive line. They pretty much owned every team they've played this season. They really haven't had a competitive game, and I think you're right. Not only do I think you're right, I got to redeem myself. Had some bad luck last week with East Chicago kind of stole my thunder a little bit, so
my power play was fizzled last week too.
So I gotta get some redemption here, and what better way to do it than to put my money on the Winamac Warriors.
By the way, here's a comparison. Both of these teams played Lake Station the last 2 weeks. Whiting beat Lake Station 34-14 2 weeks ago. Last week, Winamac dropped 73 on the Fighting Eagles.
And I'll say this, I watched the film from the Lake Station Whiting game. That game should have been closer than what it was. Lake Station had a couple of touchdowns that they should have scored, that were for naught. So that game really should have been probably about a touchdown game. And I think Lake Station is actually a much improved
team. They might be the most improved team for the start of the year till now.
I think the only thing that I would say is they never ever punt the football. Lake Station does not punt. They don't have a punt team. And I think, looking ahead to the future, for Lake Station, I think they got to sign, Rich Lunsford to a 5-year extension or something, because I think they've definitely shown a lot of improvement. but they got to get a special teams coach or somebody, because I mean, every single time, doesn't matter where they are on the field, they could be on their own 25-yard line, they're still going for it on fourth down, and that's one of the reasons why Winamac scored so many points last week, was because Lake Station kept going for it on fourth down.
All right, other key matchups now. The rest of the state in Class 1A, sectional 42, 8-2 Pioneers at 6-4 Carroll. 44, 9-1 Tri-Central will take it on 5-5 Sheridan. In sectional 47s and 48, a lot of great matchups in those sectionals there. 7-3 Atticus at undefeated North Vermilion. 9-1 Fountain Central at 8-2 North Central with Farmersburg. The Fighting Thunderbirds, might I add. And in 48, 9-1 Tecumseh's at undefeated Linden Stockton. North Davies and Perry Central in a battle of 8-2 teams. So those are look at some of your key matchups there. Let's move on to Class 2A, sectional number 33. Let's begin at the bottom matchup of the bracket. The 8-2 Boone Grove Wolves in a defensive slobber knocker last week, edging their longtime nemesis, the Wheeler Bearcats, 7-6. Tony Tinkle's Ball Club will head up to the Steel City to take on the 5-5 Bowman Academy Eagles, who survived in overtime last week at Ray Field against the River Forest Higgins.
Yeah, you talk about defense. Yeah, 7-6. You know how big that rivalry is, and boy, Wheeler obviously showed a lot of resiliency in that ball game. But Boone Grove able to come out on top, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting Bowman to win. Last week, I think a lot of people thought, well, River Forest has come on strong as of late. They would be able to take care of business, but nice job by Bowman, able to win in overtime.
And by the way, lest we forget, this is a rematch from Week 5 of the regular season in a game that was played, I believe, at Valparaiso High School. The Wolves knocked off Bowman 20-8.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to take Boone Grove to repeat the performance. I know it's hard to beat a team twice, but I like the direction this program is heading. There's no question. Tony Tinkle's done an outstanding job there, and I think Boone Grove's going to make an appearance in the sectional final next week.
It's amazing how far they've come in a couple years time frame.
Yeah,
and Tony Tinkle, by the way, is now above 500 as a head coach there since taking over the reins 3 years ago.
That's pretty impressive.
All right, top half of the bracket, the 8-2 Rensselaers.
Who's your pick?
I like Boone Grove.
Okay.
I like Boone to take it. I apologize. I kind of missed that there. My apologies. Top half of the bracket, 8-2 Rensselaers makes the trek eastward to raucous Liberty Field to take on the Fighting Blue Jays of North Judson. It's been a tough year for Kirk Kennedy in his first year at the helm of the Blue Jays. They fought injuries. Well, they took out their frustrations on North Newton last week. From what the newspapers said, they held Spartan Nation. I didn't know there was a Spartan Nation. Apparently there is in Morocco and Mount Air and the like. But they held them to 7 yards offense for the entire game last week. I got news for you, JT. Rensselaer might get that on the first play of the game this week.
You think they're going to get more than 7 yards of offense on North Judson?
On the first play of the game. Okay, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah. Look, I mean, obviously, big difference in competition. North Judson has played a very tough schedule this season, and I know they've taken their lumps and they've had a lot of injuries. You gotta give them an A for effort last week, and I know they're gonna put their best foot forward this week playing at home, but this particular season, Rensselaer they're too strong. They're too strong in every phase of the game. They have a good kicking game. They have a good balanced attack offensively. Their defense has been outstanding all season long. I think Rensselaer, if you look back early in the season, they really took care of North Judson strong. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a similar score. Maybe like a 42-14 type of game. I like Rensselaer to take care of.
I think the Bombers are just playing at another level right now.
Yep. And
they hung, I think, over 50-something at Bishop Knoll last week, and a halfway decent Bishop Knoll team as well. Really, the other marquee matchup, you look at the rest of the state in Class 2A, is in sectional 35. Lafayette Central Catholic heading eastward to take on those Tipton Blue Devils.
And that was, I think, a 7-point game. I think LCC won like 14-7. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that, another defensive battle there. And
it's been 5 years since Lafayette Central Catholic has lost a postseason game. And it was at this level 5 years ago in 1A against Sheridan and Nick Zachary.
Yeah, that's going to be a great matchup, but I got to say, I think LCC is, kind of a team on a mission. They've had a couple of close games with Tipton and with West Lafayette and Rensselaer. I like for them to take care of Tipton. Low scoring, it might be the same kind of score. I don't think they're going to score more than 3 touchdowns on Tipton's defense. They're that good, but I like the Knights.
You like which? Oh, you like the LCC? Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. I had a brain cramp for a second. We move up to Class 3A, Sectional 25, but some people like the term the Ad Grant Invitational. Well, let's see if this is an invitational. The top matchup, 10-0 Andrean heading to Cal Township to take on their former headmaster, Ivan Zimmer, and the Calumet Warriors. Man, it's been a long time since I remember when Ivan Zimmer was the head coach of those Fighting 59ers in the 80s up to, I want to say, 1995. And then at the bottom half of the matchup, you got Glenn taking on Hammond High. Andrean, 10-0, rolled past Knox last week. And you probably nothing against Ivan Zimmer's ball club, who for the second straight year won a postseason game. Nice win last week. And I think it's been a good story for Calumet, but it ends Friday night. To paraphrase the All-American reject, it ends Friday night.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Kind of the same story as what happened with Knox last week. Look for the same result to happen with Calumet.
Now the other matchup looks to be a little bit of intriguing. You got the 5-5 Glen Falcons, who knocked off Mishawaka Marion last week, and they'll be taking out a Hammond High ball club. And well, they got Eric Schreiber Jr. back at quarterback, and they've strung some wins together here in the latter half of the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hammond High's improved, and I think John Glenn really one of the most impressive wins last week. Defeating Mishawaka Marion. I don't think anybody saw that coming. So
that's the signature win for Dave Sharp in his first year at the helm there, Glenn.
Yeah, so I got to step up for the pride of Walkerton here and take the Falcons. I think it's at Hammond High, right?
They are playing at Bernie Kruger Field.
Gosh.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
a long way from Walkerton there to downtown, I'll tell you that.
I think so, but I think they'll have a nice, respectable crowd there.
In the Cat Pound?
I think so.
Oh, boy.
I think so. I think they're going to come out of there with a victory, and if they do, I believe they'll be hosting next week's sectional championship game, which would be huge for the town of Walkerton, Bob.
You know what? I'm going to show a little faith in my good friend Eric Schreiber. I went to school with
No!
my ears.
You are?
My ears. Thank you very much. And the next 3 minutes will be brought to you by the hearing impaired folks of Indiana. I'm going to show a little faith here. I'm going to go Hammond High. They're going to get the job done. I think Glenn, I hate to
You
say
think it was a fluke?
No, I wouldn't say it's a fluke, but I'm going to say they are primed for a letdown with a long bus trip. I like Hammond in a squeaker 28 to 27.
Yeah, I think this is our first disagreement too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Of course, we lost track weeks ago on who's doing whatever.
Yeah.
Other key matchups in 3A, you got in Sectional 26 a battle of 8 and 2 teams. Jimtown taking out Rochester, Jimmies, and Zebras in that matchup. Sectional 28, 2 great matchups here. Battle of 9 and 1 teams, Western and West Lafayette. Then you got 9 and 1 Yorktown taking on 7 and 3 Northwestern. In 29, a battle of 7 and 3 teams, Western Boone and Prebuck Jesuit. Sectional 30, battle of 8 and 2 teams, Hamilton Heights and Indian Creek. Man, for a team that was in the state finals a year ago, there has not been a lot, and it had a pretty good amount returning starters back from said team in the state finals. Nobody's talking a lot about Hamilton Heights.
Well, they kind of struggled coming out of the gate. If
Yeah.
you remember, they lost to Tipton, and I think they lost another game the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. So I think that's, obviously they've made a nice recovery since then. But I think the slow start to the season is kind of why a lot of people have jumped off the Husky bandwagon.
And they lost to Tipton, and they lost a couple weeks ago to Western.
Okay.
So there you go. Just looking at some of them. They have an 8-point win over Cass, and they took Sheridan to the woodshed early on in the season too. So any of those other matchups strike
Doug Wright's not happy about that, is he?
Well, he's not happy unless he wins there. But any of those other matchups strike your fancy there in 3A?
West Lafayette and Western.
Should be a heck of a matchup.
Yeah, really interested to see what happens there.
Now West Lafayette hung 50 on Delta last week.
Well, yeah, it's hard to gauge. You got teams who are competing from different areas in the state in the same sectional. They play in all different conferences, so it's you kind of don't know what you're going to get in some of these matchups.
All right, let's move on to Class 4A. We're going to start in sectional 18 this time.
I like that.
Top half of the bracket, the 7-3 St. Joseph Indians, fresh off their big fourth quarter. You know, they were down 2 scores early on that game, came back to tie it a couple times, and then were able to get some big plays and use their special teams to force some big plays and get the win, ending homeward season. They'll be on the road to taking on a South Bend Washington club that finally won their first game of the year last week. No contest, Indians.
I think you said it all, Bob. Yeah, unfortunately, that matchup, Clay and Washington, they aren't having very good seasons. It ends this week. St. Joe will be in the sectional final next week.
Which leads us to arguably one of the premier games in the state. At the Rock Pile, Friday night, the 8-2 Plymouth Rockies. The Rockies in football, Pilgrims and everything else, but they are the Rockies who had an overtime scare last week against South Bend Riley. They welcome in the big, bad, the bone, Russ Radke and the new Prairie Cougars, who have been, well, dominant with a capital D, more like dominant with like 10 capital Ds because they're 10-0. But they have been kicking butt and taking names all year. Now, the last 2 times Russ Radke's gone up against Plymouth teams, he did it at Griffith in a pair of regional championship games. In 1998, of course, this is ancient history, the year after Griffith won a state title, Griffith was a red-hot team, went to the Rock Pile, lost 32-0. In 2001, Plymouth, under 500, came to the Boneyard for a regional. Plymouth built up a 41-7 lead after 3 quarters before Griffith scored a couple late touchdowns to make it respectable. 41-21.
You're really building this thing up, Bob.
Yes, indeed. One of the things you've seen over the
I think
years...
you're foreshadowing something here.
One of the things you've seen over the years, and it's kind of spread sometimes when Griffith played some of these Michiana teams in a regional. They used to do this under former coach Tom Condon. John Barron, I believe, is now the head coach at Plymouth. But they would play this, what they call their bone buster defense. They would just basically stuff everybody in, dare Griffith to throw the ball back then, and they couldn't do it. I think you're going to start to see that again Friday night. They're going to play that bone buster defense, and the Rock Pile is a very, very tough place to play if you're a visitor. Let's get your thoughts on the game first.
Well, it sounds like you're building up to making a certain prediction here.
We're in a courtroom. Persuade me.
All right.
Persuade me.
First of all, I was probably gonna pick Plymouth prior to last week, because obviously I look at New Prairie's schedule. I know they haven't played a lot of tough competition. Last week I was very impressed with what I've seen. I know Katie's not quite the team they were last year, but I didn't expect New Prairie to hang 62 points on them.
Me too.
So I think that was an impressive. That impressed me. Okay, I have to admit, the way New Prairie won that game. If it would have been a close, low-scoring game and New Prairie barely got by, then I would say, you know what, yeah, definitely Plymouth. But the way that Plymouth struggled last week with Riley, Plymouth has kind of had their ups and downs this season. New Prairie's been consistent week in and week out, and they do have a nice win over Jimtown.
On the road too.
Yeah, and I got to say. The matchup I think is good for New Prairie, because Plymouth, they throw a little bit, but they're mostly an option team too, and I think that really plays into New Prairie's hands, because I think
we do have a couple of common opponents, by the way. Both of these teams played Bremen.
Okay.
Plymouth won in the season opener 34-13. New Prairie won in week 3 27-7. So each team won by 21 points.
Okay.
Looking to see if there's anything else here. Well, of course, they played everybody in the count because they're in the same count. Or no, Plymouth, my bad. So that's the only one that I'm seeing off the top of my head right now. Rochester, no, I don't think they play. No, that's the only common opponent. So there you go.
Yeah, I think this is a really intriguing matchup. I know everybody's going to the Merrillville Lake Central game. I think I'm going to go see this game because I really am. I'm that curious. I want to know how good New Prairie really is, and I think this is going to be maybe their biggest test of the season. But you know what? Even on the road, I'm going to say New Prairie wins this 20-14. I think it's going to be close the whole way. I think teams are going to match each other's touchdowns, but middle of the fourth quarter, I think New Prairie is able to break off some kind of a long run, maybe miss the extra point, and I say they hold on to win 20-14. I think it's going to be a great ball game.
In 7 of 10 games this year, New Prairie scored 48 or more points. The only teams that hold them under that are Bremen, Jimtown, and Mishawaka Merritt. I think this is going to be a heck of a game. I think Plymouth's going to slow down that high trade, but in the end, I am going to, based on what we saw last week and the dismantling that New Prairie did of a pretty good Kankakee Valley squad, I'm going to say New Prairie's going to win. Not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be. I think this is going to be a 2-touchdown game. I'm going to say 34-20 New Prairie on the road. Are you surprised I went with New Prairie?
Well, the way you were talking earlier, I thought it was a setup where you were going to end up taking Plymouth, but
It's the O. Henry twist there at the end. So there you go.
yeah, all right. Well, we're going to find out what the Cougars with a C are made of.
All right, let's move on to sectional 17. And no Morden, no Lowell. Instead, we have 3-7 Griffith taking on the 8-2 East Chicago Central Cardinals. 6-4 Westside heading to beautiful Zip Cyclone Field to take on the 5-5 Highland Trojans. And I just think, let's be honest, East Chicago, Westside are on a collision course. Nothing against Griffith, nothing against Highland. But the only chances I see in here are letdowns after the big wins last week.
That's true. You know, it's hard to know what you're going to get. Now that we're in the playoffs, every game, it's win or go home. So it's a lot different than the regular season. I think obviously, the problem with Griffith, I just don't know how they're going to stop all of East Chicago's athletes.
They gave up 30-some-odd points to Clark last week.
I know.
They gave up 400 yards passing.
I mean, just imagine what Martavius Carter is going to do to that defense. I mean, he tore up Morton's defense. What do you think he's going to do to Griffith? I think Griffith's going to be able to put up some points.
I'll put some points up.
Because I mean, Cal Buckham and Justin Green, probably one of the best combinations in Northwest Indiana. But I just don't think they could stop East Chicago.
62-28 East Chicago.
I tell you what, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna go 55-28.
All right. And for Westside, I'm gonna say Westside 56-14 over Highland.
I'll go a little bit lower than that. I mean, I think, I do think Highland might be able to get a couple of touchdowns, but yeah, I'm gonna probably say it might be like a 41-14 kind of game, or actually it won't be 41 because they go for 2 every time. So I'll just say it's an even 42-14.
All right, other matchups to keep an eye on in 4A sectional 19, 8-2 East Noble is at undefeated Leo. You also have 8-2 Lebanon at 7-3 Ron Kelly. And Evansville Central having a nice year. The Bears at 7-3. Nice to see a Bears team actually winning games this time of year. They'll be taking on the 9-1. 9-1 Jasper Wildcats. There you go. We're looking at 4. Let's move on to Class 5A. Only 2 games in 5A last week. The LaPorte Slicers season came to an end in Steel Stadium against the Mishawaka Cavemen. So the said Cavemen at 7-3 will entertain 4-5 South Bend Adams. The other matchup is a game you can hear on MidAmericaBroadcasting.com Friday night with myself and Tim Galt from beautiful Ames Field in Michigan City. The Munster Mustangs at 6-3 taking on 2-7 Michigan City. Michigan City's lost 7 in a row. A Munster win would send them to their first sectional championship game appearance since 1996.
Yeah, this is obviously a huge game for Munster football. Considering the season that they've had, I mean, they have a real opportunity to win this sectional. Even though it's on the road at Michigan City, the Wolves have really struggled over the last several weeks.
Ever since the collapse in the fourth quarter against Chesterton. And I hate to harp on it every week.
Yeah, it's maybe you're right. They still haven't recovered from that. I know they're kind of a young team, and I know they're having some struggles on their offensive line. Really, the line play has been their downfall, and that's really where Munster can take advantage. The run game, being able to just pound the ball, between the tackles. That's what Munster does best, and that's what Michigan City struggles at stopping. And that's why I think this game is going to be won. I don't think it's going to be a blowout necessarily, but I think Munster's just going to kind of grind this game out. And I'm going to say maybe like a 27-12 kind of game. I like the Mustangs to get it done in a row. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I do think Michigan City will hang around for a while. But I just don't think that their defense is strong enough up front to slow down Munster's run game.
How big of a factor do you think the week off for both of these squeaks? Practically everybody in 5A had the week off last week. Mishawaka did play last week, but any effect maybe?
Well, you know what? I talked to a coach. You know, I'm not gonna say this. I did talk to one of the coaches for Michigan City a few days ago, and he told me that he thought the week off really helped his team because he really thought it helped the guys refocus. And especially a team that's having a struggling season, kind of come in with a new attitude. So I think in a way the week off might be a good thing for these teams. Obviously teams that are banged up, you're able to recover from injuries. So I don't think it's going to have a real negative effect on either one of the teams.
All right, I'm going to pick Munster, by the way. I think Joe Jubenville is going to have another solid game, and that running back by committee will turn out there. I see this being like a 27-7 type game, I think, Munster getting the job done. Other matchup, Mishawaka taking on South Bend Adams. Mishawaka ending Laporte's season after ending the regular season with a loss to Penn. I'm going to take the Cavemen here in this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Mishawaka won this matchup 28-14 a few weeks ago, and I like the Cavemen to get this done. I think it's going to set up a pretty big matchup next week. Mishawaka and Munster. That's going to be a very intriguing game. If that happens. But I'm with you. I'm taking Mishawaka.
All right, really. Let's just look at the other matchups in the rest of 5. Not really a lot of marquee matchups. Really, maybe Wade and Snyder. In Fort Wade, 6-3 Wade, 7-2 Snyder there. Zionsville and Cathedral played each other. They've had some battle royales over the years as well. All right, let's talk some sectional final football,
All
JT.
right.
Which means we're talking Class 6A. Let's begin in Sectional 2. The Penn Kingsmen, undefeated, 28-7 victors over Portage a week ago. And then we take on the Chesterton Trojans, who broke out of their funk and then some last week with a 31-3 thumping on the Valparaiso Vikings. So Chesterton 4-6, and the reward for Mark Peterson, Cole Teal, and the rest of the Golden Trojans, a trip to Osceola to take on the mighty Penn Kingsmen.
Oh boy, that's going to be a tough chore, no doubt about it. We both picked Valpo last week, and I don't think either one of us knew that David Hittinger was going to be out of the game.
Yeah, he got banged up a couple weeks.
Yeah. So I didn't know that he wasn't going to play. Obviously, that certainly played a part in it, but Chesterton kind of banged up as well. We kind of know about the Beak situation. He's probably not going to play, so that really takes away probably their biggest playmaking threat. Other than Cole Teal.
Now McEwen had a huge game last week.
Yeah.
He had a huge game.
It's just a whole new animal taking on Penn. They don't give up anything on the ground.
They held Portage to 9 yards rushing in the second half last week.
Yeah, that's impressive. Especially with a talented kid like Simpson. They just bottled him up. Chesterton's going to really struggle just moving the football. If they get in long passing situations, that's where Penn can really take advantage and get some turnovers. I look for Penn to really blow this thing open. I'm going to say Penn wins like 42-7.
I don't think Penn's going to score 42 on Chesterton. But I do think they're going to win. And as much as I hate to say it, I think they're going to pitch another shutout. I'm going to say Penn 28-0 over Chesterton.
Okay, yeah. Could be a shutout, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened either.
All right. Finally, the grand finale. The buzz has been building all week.
Oh, it has.
At the burial grounds, 9-1 Merrillville taking on 8-2 Lake Central. I had this up for a second. I need to bring it back here as soon as I can do that. But the Merrillville Pirates have defeated the Lake Central Indians 16 consecutive times. You have to go back 10 years for Lake Central's last win over the Purple and White. And it was a sectional opener in 2002. To tell you this, the last time Lake Central beat Merrillville, Lake Central was not yet in the dueling conference. October 25th, 2002, it was a 14-13 win for Lake Central at the burial grounds over the then-led, Jeff Yelton-led Merrillville Pirates. But since then, 16 in a row won by the Bucks. Can they do it again? And that includes, of course, that 20-17 win a couple weeks back.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this game for some time now, ever since both of the games last week ended. We knew this matchup was going to happen. I'm having a really hard time with this one, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, you look back to last week. It's been kind of a breakthrough postseason. Teams that have been struggling to get the monkey off their back. West Side East Chicago looking to kind of get over a hump. East Chicago trying to get over that Morton hump, and they were finally able to do it. Lake Central is in that same situation.
Boat.
As you mentioned, 16 straight losses. They're trying to win their first sectional championship in who knows how long. It's probably it's been.
Who's that? Lake Central.
Lake Central.
I want to say 99, led by the great Danny Duncan.
So I mean, this is it's perfectly set up for Lake Central. They get the game at home. It's on grass.
Weather may not be that great either.
Yeah, and that's obviously not good for for a passing game, and obviously. The chance of turnovers, becomes even greater.
Now, the one thing we should notice, last week, Merrillville had their struggles with Lafayette, but Mr. Isabel had something like 230 yards rushing in the win.
Well, he did, but you go back to 3 weeks ago, he only rushed for 34 yards on that Lake Central defense. So they don't give up anything on the ground, and this is what this game comes down to for me. It's going to come down. I mean, the quarterback play. Obviously, Lake Central's playing with a third-string quarterback, but obviously they have confidence in him.
He put together a nice year. We're talking about Darter.
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean, they have enough confidence in him. Alec Olin could come back and play quarterback, but they obviously have enough confidence in this kid, to allow him to keep on starting. And Merrillville, even though Wilkins has had his ups and downs, he's still a sophomore quarterback. And I've seen so many times, in these situations, where hardware is on the line. There's a huge difference between the game this week and the game 3 weeks ago, because there's a sectional championship on the line here.
And it's win or go home.
Yeah, players start feeling that pressure. I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of DJ Wilkins in this ball game, but I know what I'm going to get out of Lake Central's defense because they've done it every week, every game this season. Their defense has stepped up to the challenge. And even though they lost 3 weeks ago, they had an opportunity to win the game. They had the ball with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game, down by 3 points, a chance to go down and win the ball game. I think this is going to be a low-scoring, ugly game in the mud because I think it rains. It's going to be muddy in that field. I am going to say Lake Central beats Merrillville. They end their 16-game winning streak, and I'm going to say they win this ball game 17-14. Field goal about halfway through the fourth quarter to break a 14-all tie. Short field goal. Lake Central hangs on and upsets the Pirates. I'm going to go with the Indians at home, ending that long winning streak.
The old saying is defense wins champion. Offense sells tickets, defense wins champions. And there's no doubt Lake Central has been incredibly great defensively. But also you're going to have to find a way to score points. And in half of the games this year, Lake Central has scored 17 points or less. They're only averaging 18 points a game. They're giving up 10.5 points a game. So they've been getting by with the skin of their teeth. I think Lake Central might have a bit of an edge in special teams. I think the kicking game's still a bit of a question mark for Zach Wells Ball Club. But I just think with Wilkins and the playmakers that they have on the perimeter, despite the slow track, I think that's going to be expected in St. John on Friday night. I have more faith in Merrillville putting some points on the board than Lake Central generating offense. And Merrillville, defensively, Merrillville's probably the most improved defensive team in the year. Last year, they were up and down, Jekyll and Hyde. They won great one series, and then they would give up a 2-play touchdown drive. But Brian Neal, who had a huge game the first time these teams met 3 weeks ago, Sean Strett and company. This is going to be another knockout, Dragon Ball game. I am going to say Merrillville keeps the streak alive again. Merrillville wins 20-14.
Yeah, I don't see this being a blowout either way. I mean,
no, it's going to be a heck of a game.
I do think I
get there early and get your popcorn.
Yeah, and I think it really is going to come down to if DJ Wilkins can step up to the challenge and make some, complete some passes down the field. I wouldn't be surprised to see the type of production that they had a couple of weeks ago. Lake Central really shut down Isabel, and I think they're going to try to do the same thing again and force Wilkins to beat them through the air. If he can do it, Merrillville will win this game. But I think I have a lot of confidence in Lake Central's defense to be able to win a low-scoring, ugly one.
By the way, we talked about the improved Merrillville defense last year. I'd say they gave up something like 25 points a game. They're only giving up 14 a game this year. Only one team has scored more than 18 points on the ball year. And you can probably figure out who that was.
On Merrillville? Oh, yeah, and Durant.
Yeah, and only twice has Merrillville failed to score 31 points in the game, and one of those 2 times was against Lake Central. So there you go. Let's look quickly, I don't know, maybe a rapid fire the rest of the sectional finals matchups in 5A. Sectional 3, 7-3 Warsaw taking on 8-2 Carroll. Carroll's led by the Tranquil brothers, who have been insane all year. Carroll going for second in a row. I like Carroll in that matchup. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I'll go with the Chargers.
Sectional 4, 9-1 Fishers at 7-3 Carmel. Could be the game of the night in the state of Indiana. I said last week Fishers was my pick to get to Lucas Oil Stadium, even though I picked Carmel before the season. I called it audible. I can't go back on the Tigers now.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same boat. I stuck with Carmel, and I'm sticking with them till the end. I'll go down with the ship.
You've done that a few times over the years.
Yes, I have. I'll go down with the ship. I'm going down the Greyhound bus here.
Oh boy. Sectional 5, here's a game for you. 6-4 Pike, 8-2 Ben Davis. Boy, and it seems like everybody's promoting this as the game of the week in the state, especially in the Indianapolis area.
Well, I like the way Ben Davis has really come on in the second half of the season. They're one of the hottest teams in the state right now in 6A. So I think they continue to get it done, even though Pike has obviously had their ups and downs. I'm going to stick with Ben Davis in this ball game.
And I picked Pike before the season to get to the state finals too. Of course, I called it audible there. Sectional 6, 7-3 Warren Central at 3-7 North Central. I predict a school with the name Central in it will win.
I think it's going to be the Warren Central.
I think so too. Sectional 7, one team has never won a sectional. The other hasn't won one in a long time. 5-5 Indy Tech at undefeated Southport.
Give me Tech. I like Indy Tech.
Really? Wow. I'm going to go with Southport.
I think Tech has really played great competition, and they've played tough in some of these games. I know they barely lost to Carmel, early in the season.
I'm going to bring up that.
Tech gets it done.
I'm going to bring up this Southport schedule here. They're 10-0. Let's see here. They got a win over Roncalli. They have a double overtime win over Terre Haute North, 11-10. And really, that's about really the only signature wins they have on them. They put 70 points on Bloomington North this year.
Oh, wow. How impressive.
Tech 5-5, lost to Carmel 6-2, lost to Pike, lost to Cathedral, lost to Chittard, and they also have a win that ended up being forfeited due to the big fight against Fort Wayne South. That was the big melee, if you remember, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I like them. They're battle tested. I think they break through this week.
Okay, and finally, Sectional 8, Center Grove at 9-1 takes the trek down. I-65 to the river, 6-4 Jeffersonville.
You've been down there, Bob.
Yes, I have. And I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express down there, too.
You're lying.
Okay, it was a Fairfield ad.
Well, I don't think it matters where Center Grove stays the night. They're going to go home with victors.
All right, there you have it. Don't forget, you can interact with us on Wednesday nights on the Reason Sportsdesk page by commenting, but like listening live on MidAmericaBroadcasting.com. Video will be up sometime tomorrow. So, any final thoughts? Should be a great weekend of football.
Yeah, we're looking forward to some of these games. I had a really difficult time, figuring out where I want to go, but I want to see what this new Prairie team is made of. I'm really intrigued, and this is going to be a great matchup. So I'm going to be at the rock pile, and we'll see if New Prairie can pull one out and get into a championship game with St. Joe next week. And I want to see if the urban revival continues with West Side and East Chicago, because those are obviously great stories as
yes. Well. All right. We'll take one final break on MAB Weekly. Thanks for joining us on the video. So we'll be back to wrap up MAB Weekly after this time at AmericanBroadcasting.com.